You're watching a Zero Dark Network production. All right, good morning. I have a little bit of a late start here, so I'm trying to coordinate using Zoom and Facebook Live. I'm thinking Zoom may be a better experience. So if you're on my Facebook page now, just go over to the Zoom link, and you don't have to put on your mic and your camera if you don't want, and you can interact via chat. So I'm going to record this one as I think the 4th episode, and I have a little bit to go over today, hopefully a little bit of a training and curriculum. I'll be able to share my screen for some of the training resources that I have, just as a taste of what the live events are like, since some of it is copyright protected, but I don't think we'll have a problem with a little bit of the sharing today. And I hope you had a good week. It's already Friday. Can you believe it? And of course, a lot of people look forward to Fridays. Fridays are special, but if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to work into the weekend as well sometimes, right? And so looking forward to an exciting day today. I've got a 6 o'clock Zoom call that I mentioned in the previous live streams where from 6 to 7:30 in the morning, there's a group of guys that come together from all over the country just to read the Bible and to share what's going on in the news and what's going on in our lives and how we can prepare for the future. And that's the purpose of this Zoom call. It's kind of a hybrid faith, business, lifestyle, mind sharing, if you will, brainstorming, mastermind. But I guess until I get this thing set up to where I have a little bit more interaction, I have to look at sharing different resources to open up the dialogue. These are archived at our website at zerodarknetwork.com. Again, in my office here, got my backdrop of books and I'm going to quick tour. But we're going to try Zoom now. So if you do have Zoom, go to the link below, which is right below my post this morning at just before 3 a.m. So I'm going to sign off on here because I don't want to have an echo if I have both of them playing. I think it's the problem I'll have, so I don't want to have that echo. And again, it's recorded over on the Zoom for zerodarknetwork.com, the website. And so I'm going to sign off here. But again, go down on my Facebook page. There's a link to the Zoom. I think last week we had a guy from Tanzania, Africa. That was awesome. John Castro, a bishop there. So anyway, share this link as well if you want. And later on, you can go back to Zero Dark Network for other video productions and features that we're doing. So thank you. I'm signing out here. Thank you. All right. It's early. It's really interesting because people are freaked out by the fact that people can wake up at 2:30, 3 in the morning, and I'm trying to find some research on the web to see if there are other groups like this, and so far there aren't, and I can understand why. So I know that there are some folks that do international business, and so they do get up early just because of the time differences. And again, we're at that ebb between the night owls and the early risers, and so I'm trying to be consistent in getting up, and what I'm finding is definitely a lot more productivity, and getting the big win's done early, right? So to me, doing this Friday morning is a big win because it's the thing I can chalk off as I did it, because, I was like, do I continue to do this? And, sometimes it's an audience of one, which is okay, but the audience of one being me and maybe the Lord above, right? And have an opportunity to share what's on my mind and on my heart, as I look at the challenges that not just myself, are going through. Of course, every person has a challenge. It doesn't matter what level you're in. In fact, new levels bring new devils, right? So new challenges. And that's the whole beauty of life, is you get a tapestry of things to accomplish, things to do, especially if you're a thinker, dreamer, doer, and a networker. There's a flood of ideas that, I'm always constantly taking notes, for example, of things to implement. And so my task bar looks pretty aggressive. And so what I'm learning to do is just prioritize 2 or 3, 4 key things to get done and get done. So the reason I wanted to do Zoom today while we're on it, I'm going to share some resources with you with my share screen, and so we'll have a full hour, I hope. We'll wrap at 4:04. And so the way to look at this schedule is you're just on a different time zone, right? While everyone else is getting up at 4 or 5, 6 or 7 or 8, 9, 10, 11s for some, and they have a full productive day. And you know, by prioritizing the time shift, what I'm seeing is more organization. I mean, we have limited 24 hours, right? And so you can't really increase the hours of the day, but you can increase the productivity of the day. And so the idea is, how do we continue to maximize, the productive time for me and for a lot of folks is the morning time, right? That's when you have your best energy, your best focus, and you're typically, for most folks, zapped out at around 10 or 11. The rest of the day, you're just kind of drudging along, right? And so what I'm finding is just being energized all day long, and I do make an allowance, as I've mentioned in some of my conversations with folks, for naps. That's one of the trainings that I took, is like, don't rule those out. Those actually, can be um, scheduled, or they could be part of your week, and so I'm not a nap taker per se, but I occasionally will say, yeah, you know what, let me go ahead and take a quick little 20 minute, 30 minute. And when I first got started on this Zoom, on this early rise, it took some getting used to, right? So I would take an hour nap maybe. I mean, the first day I think I did it jacked with my schedule so much, because I didn't move it kind of drastically, that I took a 3 hour nap, but man, it was awesome. The next day I was like, okay, I'm not feeling wobbly anymore, and so now it's kind of gotten used to it. So even my wife has gotten used to it, because at first she didn't want me getting up early, like, no, just stay in bed, and but she's actually getting up early too. She wants to, with her job, she's able to go in earlier, and she likes getting off earlier, so that way we miss traffic and all that. And so anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open with a prayer, if you don't mind. Oh, that's so good. Coffee in the morning is so good. What would we do without it, right? So we're just going to help in a prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, just thank you for this time to just go live on this Zoom call platform and just share a texture of so many things that I'm seeing and folks are seeing, that's meant to be collaborative, where people can come in and also be inspired or inspire others with what you're showing and revealing in our time. So we're looking at health, wealth, love, and happiness, Lord, the 4 key areas of our life. We want to take care of our health. We want to have wealth of opportunities, wealth of finances, wealth of relationships, Lord, and then be more intentional about the people that we care about in our love sector, and then taking time for happiness, having fun. And so we'll just share what we can today, and just thank you for the opportunity to do this. Amen. So anyway, prayer does work. In fact, I got some resources to share with you in that regard. Every morning, is a new slate. Yesterday's gone. There's nothing really we could do about it, but hopefully we prepared for today, so today will be better than what was yesterday. And of course, life has its ups and downs. It can't always be perfect, right? And so the idea is to get into what's called flow. And a while back, I read a book called Flow, and it really just outlined where how people are able to stay in a trajectory of constant, momentum, if you will. And I think rock climber. I think I shared that maybe last week. But rock climber. In fact, I met 3 rock climbers yesterday at lunch here in Houston. They were from A&M, and they came to Houston to do some, I guess, some climbing, rock walls. And so it kind of brought this idea back closer. But rock climbers in their element, when they're up there, their most dangerous heights, they're comfortable there because they've been training, and they're having to be more alive, because it is life and death. They can fall from the rock, right? But then with their team, they have a way of communicating with nonverbal communication, because they're focused on the same thing. So for us in life, for whatever your vocation is, and your responsibility is, like, how do you get into that zone of blessing, every minute of the day, every hour of the day, till the end of the day, right? And so that's kind of my focus is to stay in the zone, you know. So right now, the one thing I should be doing is this right here. I read a book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, you know. So it's all integrated into my someday, the future, you know, the future that we're working for. And so I figured that, you know, what I can multiply my message with doing a live stream. That's one of my trainings I did with Ty Lopez. Is that we're going to get to see one of his trainings here. And someone asked me at a networking event the other day that, you know, do you have mentors, you know, that you subscribe to? And I didn't really get to think of all of them. I said, oh yeah, there's a bunch that I've done. Excuse me, my nose is kind of itching this morning. So several, just a quick list in the last year and a half, and just made an intentional commitment to invest in me, right? I can't change the world. That's why we started the Change Me Saturday. Is, you know, I can only change me. And so by understanding that, you know, you're in a position of observation, you know, you can kind of see where people are at. And some people are stagnant, some people are intent. In fact, I met a lady, she owns 2 spas here in Houston, and I asked her if she was a reader, and man, she lit up because, you know, she listens to Audible. I think she listens to like 10 books a month, you know. So that's a good person to really identify with. So I asked her, like, well, what are your top 5 books you've read in the last year or so? Because, you know, I want to add it to my list, right? Um, so what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and share some resources. And we want to stay in that flow. We want to be in that flow of excellence, flow of accomplishment, flow of rest, flow of, you know, opportunity. I shared with you my vision board last week, and I continue to add to it. In fact, I added 4 other items to it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to share screen with you on that today, but I don't think I will. But anyway, for now, let's get into this. I wanted to share with you this resource that I'm sharing with my groups. It's the 5-Minute Mentor with Ty Lopez, and basically in 5 minutes, he gives you a quick coaching, if you will. Oh, a list of the coaches. So the list of the coaches that I've worked with in the last year and a half, and some of them, you know, you just pay not a lot of money. Some of them are free to subscribe to it. But I did one with Grant Cardone about business plan. And so that a little training actually accelerated the vision for a business plan. And so, as I mentioned in some of my podcasts before, and especially if you go to teammarketingdynamics.com, there is a podcast called the Marketing Dynamics Strategy Alerts, and I've got 22 episodes there. And so one of the things that people, you know, in business should think about is getting their business plan updated or done. There's a lot out there that don't have a business plan, and then while you're at it, also having a marketing plan developed. And so that was what Grant Cardone taught about vision casting and building that, you know, multi-million-dollar business plan. And he kind of accelerated the process. So it's something I've got to revisit for 2024 as I set my goals. Then I took one with Shonda Sumter, and she did a 3-day crash course, and all this is recorded, so it's all content that I can go back to and revisit. You know, in fact, one of the ideas that she gave me with one of her presenters was using Chat GPT. Of course, everybody's talking about Chat GPT, but there's a lot more to marketing artificial intelligence. But she actually had a guy that showed how to do a infogram. And so an infogram is a snapshot flowgram of what you do in your business, and I guess you could apply it to your life. So I wound up using that exercise and created an infogram, which is also featured at my website, teammarketingdynamics.com, the 6 P's of marketing, right? Because a lot of people don't quite understand what marketing is. And you may be in an industry that's kind of difficult. I don't know, maybe you're in the oil and gas industry, and you work with offshore rigs. You know, what's the process of building and planning and implementing a rig offshore, right? So you could actually have a process infogram that shows that. So that was just one of the ideas, and then do some other stuff that, you know, can help you to monetize what you do, right? So also took a training with Billy Jean Marketing, and he had a 3-day crash course on marketing artificial intelligence, right? And had some awesome guests on and some awesome resources, a list of prompts and different AI tools like voice clones and video clones and avatars and chat bots and all kinds of stuff, right? So there's a lot under the hood there. And as I look at 2024, making inroads and really zeroed in on marketing artificial intelligence, which makes life so easy for me as a marketer. A lot of times I'll use ChatGPT, for example, to do my press release drafts because I know what I need, and I'll direct it to tell, to produce it in the industry format, AP style or whatnot, or I'll produce an executive brief for like even the Zero Dark Network. I was able to create a model for the future, how we want to develop it as a broadcast, merchandise slash, events model, and just continue to replicate and scale it. Took a training also with who else? Tony Robbins did I think a 5-day training, and so I had an opportunity to expose myself to that. And then Howard Partridge here recently with his Inner Circle and Community, and so I'm learning from his books and also his training. And so the idea is that people hire others for advice, right? Your CPA, your lawyers, your plumbers that come fix your homes. You go into, if you're employed, for your skills. So it's the same thing. Invest in yourself, right? Uh, Whatever that might look like. I forget the percentages of income, but allocating a certain percentage, that you're going to just do it, right? You're just going to take that money and buy a book. So when someone recommends a book to me, I'll buy it, even though I may not read it right away, but it goes in my stack, in my other room. I have the Idea Center, right? So the Idea Center, I have a separate bookshelf with all the books that I plan to read in the next year or two, right? And so I just keep putting those on the shelf, and then I'll revisit the shelf to see which one gets to the priority level, right? So I've got 5 business books right now that are in my priority level. And then, of course, not just business books, but I have faith books and some of the resources I'm going to share today for your review. So that's just a recap of the training. If you go to a millionaires.com, I created this platform to attract veterans, primarily, but really it's for anybody that's serious about changing their mindset, right? If you have to detect a change that you want to change, right? Because a lot of people aren't, they're drifting. I read a book called Outwitting the Devil this year, and really the whole thing, and it was written in the 1940s by, I think, Napoleon Hill. And it just was published maybe a couple of years ago, and they were afraid to publish it back then. As a friend of mine says, or so they say. There's always these conspiracy theory folks, right? And but it really just outlined that a lot of people are just drifting, and we've been conditioned to drift. All the way back into school. They don't teach you the stuff that now that they should have taught you, years ago, that would probably put you on a better trajectory in life, right? So a lot of people are drifting, and I'm preaching to myself on this. It's like, you get used to thinking you're going to live forever. And that was another part of the training tie is like, you got to condition yourself that, you might not live forever. So knowing that, look at, I might have 25 years left, right? So I'm 58 now. And so what can I accomplish in the next 25 years, right? So that's another way to look at it. Or you might have 10 years. I mean, some people that I know in my circle are 70, 80, 90, very few 90 people, but, they are still full of life, and they may live to be 100, but at their stage, time is really precious, right? And it's more precious as you get older because you got finite days, and so the thing is, I think the Bible says that, Lord, teach me to count my days, so we have to give thought to that. And so once you detect changes that you want to make, then you start to implement those changes. And a good book that I recommend is Atomic Habits. And I'm halfway through that book. So it's on a priority list this year. I started reading it, then I got distracted, but I was already kind of doing Atomic Habits already. And so it just reinforced what I was already doing. So let's do this. Let's see if there's any other trainers I've taken real fast. I'm just trying to think of. Network in Action. So I work with Kathy Bowersox. It's a national franchise, and so every meeting we have, typically we have some kind of training, some kind of process, or something we'll do with with the group to leverage our retainment of the exercise. So that's how I got started on my why, finding my why, and then as I did. Again, the Lord will give me some insights into some updates. And then that's when I zeroed in on, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not big enough, And so as a recap, my friend Asa reached out to me, and, he wanted to find his why. And I said, well, I'll meet with you, but we have to meet at 3 a.m. at a Denny's. And we wound up doing that. And that sparked a whole big conversation. So we've got a lot of things that we're working on together now. And then it's opened up some opportunities for me to just, the assignments that I'm giving to the team, but to myself to get like the vision board done and to put into action what we talk about. So, well, one of the things that we share at our in-person meetings is resources. There's books that we're going to be reading together. In fact, if you go to zerodarknetwork.com, there's a book that I'm recommending that we're reading together. I may get a chance to read some of it. It's called Discover Your Phenomenal Dream Life, 17 Principles to Reach Your Phenomenal Destiny. So this is Howard's primer. He's got another book called Failure to Implement that's actually been updated, but it takes off from here. And so we're actually reading this book together for the Change Me group on Saturday. And so what happens is a little bit over time adds up, right? So even if you read a chapter a day, or you implement or a week, even a chapter a week, over a couple of weeks, you'll be done with that resource and implement it. So again, we're going to go to this 5-minute mentor thing. I just wanted to test the audio on it. So if you would give me feedback, and of course I'm recording this, so I have a chance. I'm going to go to share screen. I think I'm going to go to this screen. All right, here we go. So we're on my Facebook Live. Let me just check out my page real fast. So there we go on my page. Refreshing the page because I did make a post. And I realize people aren't up this early yet, so it's really about the right people being on. Because whenever you start something new like this, ooh, how do I do an invite? There we go. All right, so here we go to discard. Okay, we can go to Ty Lopez now. Just kind of got distracted. The mind of a marketer, right? But that's also something to think about too, because creativity is not, it's not linear, although there's principles and processes to creative, and there's people that teach you how to do a lot of that stuff, but at a level of mastery, you just kind of have a process that you go through on creativity, origination, implementation, all that. So here's the Ty Lopez programs I've been mentioning. But about 2 years ago, he was bundled a lot of these. So I wound up picking them up and going through the modules. But you got the $1 Million Mentor, the e-com coaching. These are long live streams, the 67 steps, which I've gone through, copywriting workshop. Writing good copy is critical. And so there's a process of trainings there to teach you how to be creative in your copy, and also getting your clients to write your copy. And so just automating your time. And that's what I was saying. You can increase your time value. And I made one of these exercises. I reached out to one of my clients and asked her to submit me an article about her product. Well, I didn't have to write that article. So she wrote it, then I posted it and pushed it. And so it saved me a lot of time in that regard. The business mindset. So all these trainings here. Ones that really have focusing on is the 12 foundations, the 67 steps, as I mentioned, the business accelerator, and others. So the social media agency and all that. So I still have a lot to unpack here, but I went through all of the 5-minute managers here. I just wanted to share with you just one as a taste. And I've got it where it can share the sound. So hopefully it sounds good on your end. And we've already gone through 3 of these with the mastermind group. So I'm going to go down to the 4th one. So the welcome one, I'll just give is just a recap. Welcome you to the 5-minute coaching deal. And he's basically saying if he were to coach his younger self, what would he say? And so that's kind of a conversation that, we could have with ourselves. What would you say to your 17-year-old self or 15-year-old self? And, to save you a lot of headache right now, right? And then making money is simple, but it's not easy. And so that goes with the idea of making changes, right? You can make the change, and then it's not going to be easy to do it, but the simplicity of the idea in implementing, making it, bite-sized chunks or whatever, till you get it done. Like making 10 sales phone calls a day, for example. That's a simple idea, but doing it is not easy, right? And then as you do it, then the numbers add up. And the number one skill to wealth, I think he had mentioned sales. So if you're in sales, or if you're not in sales, then you want to start really developing your sales ability. Being a selling machine is one of the takeaways, as well as being a learning machine. So we're going to go to the next one called Elevate Your Social Circle. And for me, I went to a networking event that I mentioned earlier. And so what I discovered there is in this training was, learning who's in the room, right? But I think he's going to talk more about, finding people you want to connect with here. But when I did that, there was like 2 or 3 people that I needed to go say hi to that I haven't seen in a while that are in my network, extended network. And those relationships are relationships that are very helpful to me and valuable to me. And so I just wanted to make sure that, I had an opportunity to go say hi before I left, right? And then I wound up meeting some other, cool people there at this event. So when you go to a room, even at a restaurant, my wife was laughing at me when I was at a restaurant. And I really did not know anybody, but I just looked around to see who's in the room. And she was, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, I don't know who's in the room. I want to find out. Maybe I know somebody here." Because usually I will run into somebody in Houston that's in my network or I've met before, or they know me, right? And so it just kind of opens up your horizons to kind of discipline yourself to like make note of who's in the room, right? So we're going to share this video without my comment.
All right, I want to welcome you to the test group, the 5-minute a day money mentoring. I'm going to be teaching you everything they should have taught you in school about making money, okay? I shouldn't have to teach this, but the school system does not teach this, even though the main reason people go to high school and college is to get a career so they can make money, take care of their family, provide for themselves. Everything important you're not taught. So I've kind of decided I'm going to teach everything as if you were my 18-year-old self. So I'm just going to pretend you are me. This jet here, we're headed to my ranch. I've been in New York City, but I got to get out of the city. I go crazy. So I'm just pretending that this is a time machine. And I'm going back, and right there, sitting in that chair, is not Frank, it's my 18-year-old self. And I'm going to be going through, and the way it works is every day, starting a little bit after you watch this welcome video, a few hours or whatever, depending on your time zone, you're going to get either a text or an email. Mark it not spam, and if you want to receive them by text, which is my recommended way because you miss emails sometimes, we sent you a welcome text. You just got to reply back, verify, so we're not spamming you, okay? If you're outside the US and we can't text you, just rely on email. Just mark my email as not spam. So, that's the first step. You're going to have to be consistent. There's no one, first little bonus lesson. If you can't be consistent with something, you're never going to make money. So you got 28 days, 7 days a week, no days off. I'm going to be sending you a 5-minute video on a different subject. 5 minutes. They're going to be quick to the point, but they're going to go in depth. Okay? You need to listen to them. At the end of 28 days, if you've listened to them faithfully, I'm going to give you a white belt. I do jiu-jitsu. I used to do judo. And I'm going to give you just the white belt. You're going to get it via email. Congratulations. You earned your white belt in making money. And then next one would be your yellow belt. And then you get your blue belt. And you can stay for a year. At the end of the year, you could be like a red belt, like a grand master. Okay? Very few people will stay for the whole year, even though it's only 5 minutes. I hope that'll be you. But for sure, stay for the full 28 days. Okay? Full 28 days. So, let's get started. I want you to just do one quick thing. I'm going to get you in the habit. After every 5-minute lesson, about how to make money, understand finances, understand how to invest your money, understand how to find mentors, understand real estate, understand starting businesses online, offline, sales, closing, all those things. You're always going to have a little assignment. So it's 5 minutes of listening and then a minute or two of filling out an assignment. Why? It's not homework. It's because it's been proven if you actually take action after you listen to something, even just small, writing a quick comment, you're 50% more likely to remember it. Because most people forget everything they learn. So very important for you at the end, in order to unlock the next lesson, you gotta just write a little quick one. So let's do it for this one. I'm pretending you're my 18-year-old self. I'm gonna call you Ty Jr. Okay, throughout this program. It's a good name, could be a male, female, whatever gender we now have. So here's your assignment. What do you want to get? The main thing you want to get out of the next 28 days. What is it specifically? Is it how to save money because you spend too much? Is it how to invest the money you already have? Is it to build a brand new business? Is it how to grow an existing business? Maybe you're already making money. Is it how to get recurring income, multiple streams of income? Real estate, what's your goal? Okay? So right below where you're watching this video, you should see a place. Write a couple comments. Remember, you get out of it what you put in. If you write 2 words, don't put any effort into it. Don't come crying to me that you didn't learn anything in these 28 days. You didn't put any effort. Welcome to the world of big boys and big girls. You gotta be mature. You gotta be serious. I like to have fun. I like comedy clubs, jokes, but I also know sometimes you gotta be serious. Okay? So welcome to the group. I hope you stick to it. Don't procrastinate. Answer that below, and soon we'll release lesson number 1, 5 minutes a day, what they should have taught you in school about money mentoring. Here we go.
All right, so takeaway, got to be serious. Well, that was not the right video, but that was the first video. Welcome. So what I will do is, if you'll send me an email, andy@andyvaldez.com, I can send you a link where I think you get these for like 7 days for free. And so you probably catch up on as many as you want in that time, right? And then share. And that's what I'm seeing with the learning, selling, this personal development network is we are sharing insights and resources that can help us to advance our life dream, right? So I'm out looking for clients or whatever. Really, I'm looking for people that want to make changes in their life, right? And so, it's going to take, doing some things differently, and again, a lot of it I'm preaching to myself. Like, you know what? I should have learned this stuff years ago and done it. Like the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I've had that book on my shelf for 15 years. And when Howard was really championing that book, I said, I got to read that, so I fell in love with like, oh, wow, I should have read this a while back. It's really an interesting tale of a lady in business making pies, and she is now in a nightmare, so, she created her nightmare, and thankfully a mentor came to help her to realize she can get out of it, and just making some just different changes. She's already had the work ethic. She already had the commitment, and she had an excellent product, but she became an employee to her own business, right? And that was kind of a prisoner to her own system, to her own making. So we don't know everything, but people act like they do. It's like, and again, I'm preaching to myself on this. So, making those changes is a good place to be, right? And thankfully, my one of my cousins, she's starting a company. I said, you know what, that's a great place to be, because at least now you can do your research and then decide what's going to be the best thing for you to do. So I partnered her with a seasoned veteran friend of mine. Her and her husband are doing awesome, and they're in the same lane, if you will. They really want to rescue those that need rescuing, single mothers, kids that didn't get their high school diploma, and they can put them on a fast track to a career, or even later starting a company, right, with their schools that they have that help them to do that, especially vets too, that are transitioning. So another thing that I wanted to share that we do at our groups is we have, I have access to Right Now Media through my church, and it's a lot of inspirational trainings that are included with just the membership of the church. So I was like, wow, this is a great benefit, because I'm not sure what the value of these might be. And these are resources that we share. in our in-person meetings, because at the place we have access to a big screen TV, and I can just put an HDMI cable on my computer to play these, right? And so the value of just the gathering, again, being serious about the changes, making a commitment to be there, and again, by the time the day is done at our meetings, let's say, you still have 5, 6, you're still up, you're still up at 5 and 6, you're up before everybody else. And now you're hitting your day. So I'm going to share this one at the Change Me Saturday group. We really realize we can't change other people, but we can change ourselves, right? So the idea is like, we're not trying to change you, but we're going to share what we're doing. If that makes an impact on you, well, great. Then we've helped a person, to accelerate their vision, their dream, right? It's your dream, not my dream, right? So whatever your dream is, you have to invest in, you have to decide, but you're going to find that people are willing to help you. They're willing to share with you what they're doing, and maybe their contacts, even their resources, so as you get to know people, that's always another good test, is like, okay, are these the people you want in your group, right? And our tendency sometimes is to be accepting of everyone, but you got to be a little bit guarded sometimes, not naive, right? You got to figure out, okay, what's the vibe? Do you feel a connection? And is this a person that you have fun with, right? Because you can have caustic relationships. You don't want that. And of course, as I'm evaluating people too, I'm like, okay, who is in my inner circle and who's in my next outer circle and who's in my way out circle, right? And some people deselect, right? Which is okay. It's life. You can only manage so many relationships, and I have about 150 in my mighty network, I say, but it's always fun to be able to, like, who haven't I talked to in a while? So I'll send them a buddy check. So I'm going to go ahead and do another resource that we're sharing, and this is more along the lines of the Change Me aspect. And so we're going to watch this video, and I'll go to our Zero Dark Network website for this one because I already have it linked there. So again, it's zerodarknetwork.com. And here's the page. So we've added some other pages up at the top from the Friday Live. Those are archived there. The mastermind group with a kind of an outline of what that does. The Change Me Saturday, also sharing books online, and the training resources, and then events. So on the training, let me just take a look at that one real fast. It's going to take effort, right? So I had to find a good graphic that demonstrated that. And then right now we're going through an exercise of setting up our vision board. And so there's a couple of videos there that can help you. And then we've got one called Mindset. So I came across this gentleman. He wrote a book called Sell Like Crazy. And so I kind of like his style from Australia. But let's go ahead and go to the homepage. On the homepage, I have a list. This is our Saturday Change Me group. But here is the Free of Me series. And this is more, we'll just go through the first one, which is the trailer, and then the 3 minutes of self-focus. And so we're going to go through just some training there. And then this I may read a little bit from Discover Your Phenomenal Life, although we're at 3:41. So we'll see how much time we have. And let's go ahead and go to the trailer. I've got the share sound, so I think that's good. It is a video clip, and so you should be able to see this. I'll see how long this one is, but let's go through this. It's Free of Me by Sharon Hod Miller. 5 sessions, average sessions about 12 minutes. So these are not long sessions, although I have some resources that take like an hour or so. And so here we go with the trailer.
This study boils down to one simple truth. It's not about you. When we make God about us, we miss something essential about Him and ourselves.
I did all of the things that we're called to do as Christians. It was never about who the Lord was. It was never about His glory or His goodness. It was about my glory.
God, I'm only going to love you if you give me a husband. Lord, I'm only going to love you if you give me a baby. Lord, I'm only going to love you if you give me this job. And those things were failing.
I obsessed over my image. It was exhausting, just an exhausting pursuit of perfection that was just too much.
The power of the gospel is not that it makes us feel good, but that it calls us into something bigger than ourselves. That larger vision is the thing our souls crave. And so I want to invite you into the journey of becoming free of me, not for the sake of looking like a good, perfect Christian, but because God created you for much, much more.
All right, so I hope you like that. That was just the intro to Free of Me. And then we'll go through this one. I haven't seen this one yet. It's 3 minutes of self-focus. So the idea is that you were made for awesome things, right? And so getting in tune with that, is really going to make the difference. I won't go into too much on that topic, maybe for another day, but let's share this one. 3 Myths of a Self-Focus by Sharon Hodmiller.
I'm Sharon Hodmiller, and I'm so excited to join you in this study of Free of Me. I am a wife, a mom, and a writer, but most of all, I love Jesus. And this series gets at the heart of what God has been teaching me over the past several years, and I cannot wait to share it with you. My prayer for you as we go through this study is that God will radically move in your heart as He has done in mine. We're going to dive into scripture together and dig into truth. We will also be hearing from women who struggle just like you and me. This study boils down to one simple truth. It's not about you. Now, what's interesting about this phrase is that it can hit your ears in different ways. Sometimes it sounds scolding and finger wagging, but this phrase can also be freeing. That parent who wasn't there for you, that was not about you. The friend who betrayed you, that was not about you. And the calling that God has placed on your life, it is not about you. A huge part of my story centers on coming to grips with that truth, that my marriage, my ministry, my faith is not about me. I became so self-focused that it robbed me of joy and affected the most important relationships in my life, including my relationship with God. I was so focused on my own image and reputation that I withered inside. But God has taught me the freedom of gazing on Him instead of myself. And that's what I want to share with you in this study. First, we're going to hear from Adrienne. I love her honesty and her heart. Her story is like so many of ours, the story of what happens when our faith is more about our good Christian image than it is about God.
For me to be the perfect Christian woman, what it looked like was I volunteered at my local church. I was in Bible studies with women at my church. I prayed. I was at church every Sunday. I did all of the things that we're called to do as Christians. I made sure that I was at every church event. I made sure I was seen in every church event. I made sure to voice how I felt and what I was learning from the scriptures. It was never about who the Lord was. It was never about His glory or His goodness. It was about my glory to make me feel good. I had been in a relationship in 2014 and we fell into sexual sin. As that relationship continued over time, I just fell into a darker path of sin where I would confess sin, but I wouldn't turn away from it. I wouldn't truly repent of it. And then I got to a place where I was just lying to those people around me. I would not tell them that I was seeing my ex. I wouldn't tell them when I fell into sexual sin. And I was just hiding my sin and all of my shame. I had to learn how to balance these lies that I was telling. I just got so tired. It led to my anxiety of someone is going to find out you're a fraud. And when they find out you're a fraud, Adrian, everything that you have built for yourself is going to come crumbling down. Ultimately, I just got to this bottomless pit of just despair and not believing that the Lord was good. And I just didn't see myself in the Lord during all of this because I was only focusing on myself. I had been walking in the same small group at my church, and they finally got to a point where they looked at me and they're like, Adrian, this is an idol, and if you cannot give this up, there are gonna be steps that we're gonna have to take. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up going through a lay counseling program at my church, and through that program, my counselor she asked me a question one day, and she said, Adrian, who are you? I was like, of course, I'm a woman of God who is saved and loved and forgiven. And she's like, I don't want that answer, Adrian. Who are you? And to be asked that question was really hard because I had to look at her and I had to say, I don't know. I really don't know who I am. She just encouraged me to write gospel truths out, and I was able to write some gospel truths out about myself. And through that, I went through scripture. It's just kind of opened my eyes so much more to who God is and how much He cares and how much He loves. I did have to put my sin out there in front of people, and I did have to show them the darkest parts of my heart and be 100% known. But in that, I was freed up to not have to be perfect. I had to drop the front, and I had to be real, and I had to show people who I really was. And in that moment, I got to see who Christ really was.
I don't know about you, but I relate so deeply to Adrian's story. The image of being the good Christian is so powerful and enticing, especially when it has been a part of your identity for a long time. But what Adrian's story demonstrates so clearly, and what I have experienced myself firsthand, is that this image is a terrible master. When we are more committed to looking good than looking to God, that image becomes a heavy burden to bear. Now, when you hear a story like Adrian's, you might not think it's about self-focus, which is why her testimony is the perfect place to start. As we begin this study, I want to look at 3 myths of self-focus that prevent us from identifying its effects in our lives. The first myth is that self-focus looks like selfishness. When we think about self-focus, it's easy to associate it with narcissism. So long as we are thoughtful of others and we don't post too many selfies online, we assume we are doing pretty well in this department. However, self-focus takes a number of surprising forms, which is how it so quietly creeps into our lives. Rather than manifest as blatant self-focus, it subtly devotes itself to preserving a certain image or putting our desires ahead of serving God. A more helpful way of thinking about self-focus and identifying it in ourselves is something I call the mirror reflex. Have you ever noticed that whenever you walk past a mirror or really any reflective surface, you can't help but steal a glance? That is the mirror reflex, and we all do it. But this compulsion is so powerful that we do it with everything in our lives. We do it with our marriages, our parenting, our friendships, career, possessions, even our faith, treating them as if they reflect on us and are about us somehow. The second myth is that self-focus is a new problem. In the age of social media, it's easy to spot the ways we promote ourselves. Young people especially take the brunt of this criticism. But the truth is, it's a struggle as old as humankind. Thousands of years ago, the poet Ovid wrote a story of a man named Narcissus, who was so beautiful that he fell in love with his own reflection. He was so enamored of his own appearance that he couldn't bear to leave the river's edge. He just gazed into the water, adoring himself. He was so captivated by his own face that he neglected to eat or to even drink, and he eventually lay down on the ground and died. It's amazing to me how relevant this ancient story remains. Thousands of years ago, humans understood the powerful allure of self-focus, but they also understood the peril of it. Narcissus's vanity kept him from living his life, and self-focus does the same to us today. It results in a slow and steady spiritual death, often without us even noticing. Self-focus hurts our relationships, it shrinks our faith, kills our confidence, and ultimately steals all our joy. When it creeps into our families, our friendships, and our work, it turns the beautiful into the burdensome. This is why throughout Scripture, we are encouraged to focus on God. In the Psalms, it describes meditating on God's word 16 different times. God is reminding us that it is human nature for our gaze to drift inward. The human soul is like a musical instrument that constantly drifts out of tune, which is why we must constantly retune our spirits back to the gospel. We must constantly refocus on Christ. The third myth is that self-focus creates self-confidence. Now, few of us would endorse this statement on its face, but this principle is built into our culture. If you are struggling with insecurity, then you need affirmation, 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 positive self-talk. Remind yourself how special you are. Remind yourself how beautiful you are. This, it's tempting to believe, will resolve our insecurity. The trouble is, insecurity has two causes. The first is the one we talk about all the time, which is low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is when you don't see yourself the way God sees you. You don't see yourself truthfully. And the answer is biblical truth and godly affirmation. But there is a second cause of insecurity that we almost never talk about, which is self-preoccupation. Self-preoccupation breeds insecurity because it makes everything about you. Everything is a referendum on your ability and your worth, and it raises the stakes extremely high in any given situation, which places an incredible amount of pressure on you. That's why the solution to insecurity is not always affirmation, which only reinforces self-focus. Instead, the answer is correcting your focus, recentering it back onto God. This is where freedom can be found once and for all, a freedom and a purpose that no self-help message can deliver. In the sessions that follow, we are going to look at some other areas in our lives, some mirrors, so to speak, that we make about us and what happens to them when we do. And as we go through these sessions, I want you to keep a bigger vision in view. Hebrews 12, 1-2 tells us to run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. That is what this study aims to do. This study is not simply about being a better person, but participating in a bigger story. God did not create us to live for ourselves. He wants us to have joy and freedom and peace, but we will not access them by putting ourselves first. Serving our own reputation and image, even when it is a good Christian image, will only enslave us and wither our souls. So I invite you onto the journey of becoming free of me, not for the sake of looking like a good, perfect Christian, but because God created you for much, much more.
All right, that was awesome. So it's no longer I, so when I say change me, really we have to detect the change that God wants in us, right? And he's showing us who he is. And by showing us who he is, we are becoming more like him. So we got about 4 more minutes, but I'm not going to be able to go through all our materials, but thank you for watching this Friday. It's going to be recorded and archived on our website and also on YouTube. I'm going to be working on kind of some visual intros and outros to kind of make this more, valuable to those that are going to sit down and watch this and hopefully learn from it. But regarding affirmations, right now I'm reading a book. This is kind of an accumulation of Norman Vincent Peale's in his book, he mentions a lot of different scriptures, but this is 40 powerful spiritual phrases that are like, I don't know, mindset type things, right? So I've been writing down as I'm reading them. There's 40 of them. So my wife and I actually will read these to each other now as I pick her up from the bus stop, and as we look at the future of what God's doing in our life. We've been together 43 years, so it's kind of been a interesting journey to have a partner that you can talk to and learn from. And I wanted to also comment, even though this is a video of women, you can learn a lot from how women think, right? And as guys, if you're watching this and you're a guy, what I'm discovering, I got two girls, right? So I had to learn. And of course, as a marketer, I marketed to women because they usually were the ones that influence buying decisions. So getting to learn how they think and they think differently, and which is great, but we can learn same issues, right? And one for men, like in the fraud area, we want to know, do we have what it takes, right? We don't want to be a poser. And you want to be the real deal, as you've heard it said in some circumstances. But the lady was honest with her sexual situation per se. I mean, that meant something to her. And for men, I've been championing this with guys. It's like, the church, and this is the men in the church, 80% are involved in pornography. And that's something that is going to take away from your life in one way or the other, right? It's going to take away how you look at women, how you opportunities, because the Bible says that the wages of sin is death. And so that doesn't necessarily mean a physical death. It's a death of relationships, a death of opportunities. You're opening up a door to maybe attacks in your family. And so these are serious things that, you need to think about, right? And thankfully, the Lord, I'm preaching to myself, as I say some of this stuff, Lord helped me to deal with that, going back to 2005, right? Just having that purity, that, that mindset, the mind of Christ that you're going to need, especially in the days ahead. The other takeaway I had was the mirror effect. Yeah, a lot of times we'll put ourselves into something, right? Because ego, and it's nothing wrong with having an ego, but you don't want to have an overinflated ego where your head, you can't fit through the door, right? And so having an understanding of what is God showing me in this thing, so that I can be free of me to pursue with excellence, and then be able to account for it, be able to say, Lord, you told me to do this, I did it. Not for me, but because you wanted me to accomplish and learn something in the process. So that's an ebb and flow, but the mirror effect is like wanting to make it more about you, right? And so that is a danger too, because if you become more public, even Jesus was mindful of the public, persona. And so I always tell people, I said, well, if you have to worry about your reputation, you don't have one, so you have to give yourself grace and mercy, because he was of no account, as the Bible says. He was just who he was, and his fame of his name got out, but he continued to remain who he was, right? So that's the freedom that comes from understanding who you are and whose you are. Is you don't have to answer to man, but you do have to answer to the Lord, and he does have his people, so you have to respect and honor people, give honor to whom honor is due, right? And so there is a balance, right? But even our ancient forefathers knew that there was this tendency to the mirror effect, right? And then I think that was about it. So I'll just read one of these verses. Let's see which one. Oh, this one I'll take away with. We're over time here. It says, if God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. So you can change that to say, if God is for you, who can be against you? So when my wife and I are reading this together, it's us together, right? So the power of two is really incredible. And so it's us against the world, basically, not in a bad way, but actually in a good way. We can accomplish a lot together for the benefit of the world. We want to help, the people that we want to help, or God is sending us to. And so we're getting more in tune with that. And so that's the takeaway I have today. I do have two, again, we didn't get to read from Howard's book, but I encourage you to go ahead and get it and to start your own journey, discover your phenomenal dream life. And in it, he mentions the dream board. If you go to zerodarknetwork.com, there's two videos there that you can learn how to do a dream board. And before I did mine, I just bought the board blank, and I just prayed to the Lord, like, okay, Lord, help me to fill this out. Remember, it's not about me, it's about what he wants from me. And so he started giving me ideas to put up. And so it's starting to come along pretty well. In fact, I'll take a picture and I'll probably put it in the video of where we're at now. And so it's really exciting because we're planning a trip to Florida. And so I took a picture of that house. And then I put, it's Davenport, Florida. I think we're going to go to Disney World as a family, and all of our family's going to kind of converge. It's an 8-bedroom house, and my wife got it for a week. And so as we're praying for that in May, we're thinking about, all the special memories and the things that we want to do while we're there. So being intentional about, already thinking about the experience. And so as I put it on my board, the Lord's going to give me ideas of things that, surprises. Like one time I got some markers, little erasable markers you can write on the mirrors and the windows. And then we just encourage people to draw on the mirrors, right? You can wipe it off later, right? So it just made it a colorful, fun thing for even like my young niece, Savina, is going to be joining us. And so she'll have something to do. We'll play family board games, movies, or whatever. We'll survey the area, for example, to see what restaurants or what's in the area beyond Disney. Of course, we're on the peninsula of Florida, so you have the Atlantic Ocean, which I've never been to. So I already see like making a trip out to the ocean just to walk the beach or whatever. And then on the other side, you have the Gulf of Mexico. Never seen the Gulf of Mexico from the Florida side. So and we may go down, we may go up, So anyway, it's wide open right now, but that's the purpose of the dream board, is to help you to vision cast your life, really. So it's just a way to map out your health, wealth, love, and happiness sectors. What are you going to do in health? What are you going to do in wealth in 2024? Wealth of relationships, wealth of business, wealth of investments, or whatever, love and happiness. And then I'm rereading this book that a friend of mine gave me, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. This is actually 2 books in one. And so as I'm reading a chapter a day, I'll get through that book. So any comments that you have and how to make this better, would love any resources that you want to share in the comments, please do so. Again, this is every Friday at 03 a.m. in the morning. Yep, we're up before the devil. So that's what I like to say. And he doesn't like that, but that's okay. We are on mission. This is a great time to be alive if you're paying attention to what's going on in the country and what's going on in your neighborhoods, in your parts of the city. But you can have an effect, a positive effect. So this is meant to be an encouragement, just to have a dialogue. And right now with this live, my vision is we might have 100 people on here one day, and we're all kind of on the same mission to just let's just be more effective and more productive and more inspired ourselves and aspiring to do greater things, right? Because the Bible does say that, the good things are great, but you will do greater than good. And that's what you want to do. You want to do greater than good, right? I don't want to just be good. I want to be great. I want to be legendary. And so that's a mindset. And the Lord wants to use people that want to be led, right? He is the author and finisher of our faith, as the lady said in the video. So he's already given us a measure of faith. He wants to refine it and make it better, right? And if you can believe it, you can do it. And that's the exciting thing, is like detecting what it is that he already preordained you to do. It's not something that you're making up. It's something he already decided that he wanted you to do. And it may be overwhelming. It may seem impossible. In my circles, I said, you want to think big, but while you're thinking, go ahead and think bigger. It doesn't cost you anything extra. So have a good weekend, and stay tuned and keep in touch. Take care.
My name is Andy Valdez, founder of Marketing Dynamics. The late Peter Drucker, the father of management theory, believed marketing was critical to your business. He said the purpose of a business is to create a customer through marketing and innovation. Strategic marketing equals immediate success. We offer you speed to market without the speeding tickets. Work smarter, harder, faster. Marketing Dynamics, because the market never stays the same. Please visit teammarketingdynamics.com.